Today I'm gonna give you a little introduction on classification of organisms, of living organisms on Earth. If you think about, and I know one of the first slides in the module has you sorting out different groups of things. If you think about if you have any collection of anything, like maybe baseball cards or football cards or stickers or Legos or just about any type of a collection you could have, you probably have it sorted in some manner so that it makes it easier for you to identify where to look for something. Well, scientists way back when decided they needed to do the same thing with all the living things that were found on Earth. They needed categories to put them into so that it was much easier for them to talk about the different organisms that we were seeing. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll just get a little introduction to what was happening in the world of taxonomy. So let me just slide back here and from the beginning. Okay, so I mentioned the term taxonomy. Taxonomy can be defined as classification and naming of living things. Well, when you were born, your parents gave you a name. Your first name was probably an individual name for you, unless if you were named after one of your family members or someone who was important to your parents. And then your surname is your family name. So you have that in common with other people in your family. As we start to look at the taxonomy and the system of naming of living things, you'll see there's a lot of similarities to that. So back in the 1700s, there was a gentleman named Carolus Linnaeus, and he decided to put organisms in a group based on their structural similarities. And he gave every organism a two-part name, and we call this its scientific name. So in this two-part naming system, which we call binomial nomenclature, the first part of the name is the genus, and the second part is the species. So when we write a genus and species together as a scientific name, we have to capitalize the first letter of the genus. The entire species name is all lowercase. And if we're typing it, it's generally found in italics. So I gave you an example down below of our scientific name, which is Homo sapien. Now, in the Linnaeus system, organisms are grouped according to narrowing categories. So we start out first with the domain, which is the largest category, and then narrow down to, well, there's 3 domains, and then there's 6 kingdoms, and within the kingdom, there'll be a phylum. Within the phylums, there'll be classes. Within the classes, orders, family, genus, and species. So a lot of times it's difficult for students to remember what order these go in. So I came up with this little phrase to help you to remember. So the first letter of each of these words is the same as the first letter of the decreasing Linnaeus hierarchy. So if you use do, keep ponds clean, or frogs go scarce, that will help you to remember what order the hierarchy goes in. This is our hierarchy. We belong to the domain Eukarya. We are made of eukaryotic cells. You might remember that from semester 1. We belong in the animal kingdom, or Animalia, if we're Latinizing it. We also belong, as you go down the scheme, you can see Chordata, Mammalia, Primata, Hominidae, Homo, and then finally Sapien, which is our species name. As we go down that list, we would narrow down the other organisms that would have the same or similar characteristics that our species does. You can see, I gave you an example here of dandelions. The only thing we have in common with dandelions is we belong to the same domain. They belong to eukarya because they also are made of eukaryotic cells. But as you move on, the next category, kingdom, they belong to the plantae kingdom, not Animalia, and so on. So our three domains are archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Okay, those are our three domains. And then our six kingdoms would be Archaeobacteria, Eubacteria, Protista, fungi, plantae, and Animalia. I'm going to stop there and let you get into the module and get some more information about how we classify organisms. Just know that as we learned more about genetics, just like you did in module in semester one, we found that we had some changes that needed to be made in our classification system. I hope you enjoy the system and continue on with the module. And I think you'll have some exciting things to learn about. Bye.